Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bramski Vlogs. Matt here with another ski chat. My guest today is Laurent Vanat from Laurent Vanat Consulting. Now, a little bit about Laurent. Amongst many other things, he is an expert in ski resort economics. He is the publisher of the International Snow and Mountain Tourism Report, which is recognized around the world as a benchmark for ski industry figures. Today, we're going to be discussing a number of topics from the 13th edition of the report, which was released back in April. But just before we do that, if you want to keep up to date with any upcoming vlogs or ski chats that are all about the ski industry and the various topics within that, this channel is all about the mountains and our love for skiing. So if you want to follow all the future videos for that, then you need to do just two things: hit the subscribe button and then tap the notification bell in the bottom right hand corner of this video. Okay, so let's bring in our guest, and I'm delighted to say hello to Laurent. Hi. Hello. Laurent, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, and just tell us where it is you are right now.
I'm in Geneva. That's the place where I live. It's in the middle of the Alps, but not directly in the Alps. So if I need to ski, I need to travel 1 hour or so. But it's not far away from a lot of ski resorts and nice places.
Yeah. Have you got any favorite ski resorts you like to go to?
I would say my favorite ski resort absolutely is Zermatt in Switzerland, but it's a bit far away. So I've got a resort that is rather large in France and not far from my home, about 50 minutes. That's the Grand Massif with Flaine, Les Carreaux, Morillon somewhere, and the beautiful view on the Mont Blanc.
I've stayed in a nice little chalet in Samoyen on the other side of the hill, and it's a great little tiny town that still gives you that sort of same access to lots of skiing. It's sort of perfect with what you want for a ski holiday, I think.
And the ski area is great because you can commute from one resort to the other, and I like this place.
Yeah, for sure. Can you see any snow out of your window at the moment?
No, not yet. But it can happen, but not yet. But I've seen some picture. I think there are some places in Austria or in the Swiss Alps where there are already snow. And even places where some small ski tracks are prepared already. Yeah, especially with snow farming.
Yeah. They obviously want to try and keep as much snow back at the end of the season so that they can prepare the slopes at the start.
A few weeks ago, I saw in Diavolezza in the Grison, they were preparing a slope with snow that they had stockpiled from the last season. And I've seen a picture a few days ago. They started the competition training on this place.
Yeah, and one of our guests who comes on quite regularly, Andy, he operates out of Cuprun, and they're starting to do their camps up on the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier, and I think they had like about maybe 30 centimeters on the glacier this week. So
yeah, sure. On glacier ski area, they can already ski, and even in Zermatt, you can ski all year around.
Yeah. So, Laurent, what we always like to do, especially with new guests on these interviews, is we like to sort of take a few minutes to just allow the guest to basically introduce themselves. So, can you tell the viewers a bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, basically, I'm a business consultant, and I started my career as a generalist, not really focused on the ski business, but about 25 years ago, I started to work for some ski areas, and I helped them to make business planning or some kind of economic analysis. And then I noticed that when you want to make a business plan, you need to have some market data, because if you don't get market data, you can make forecasts, but they are based on nothing. So as the industry in Switzerland had no data about the market and visitation over the last season and so on, I started on my own collecting this data, and I did this for Switzerland. a few times and prepared an end of season report. And then this report made some benchmark with some other alpine countries. And then there were demand from the industry to have more and more benchmarking data. And little by little, my report became separate from the Swiss end of season report. It became a report on its own, and it grew up to the size it has today. This is the report today. I don't know if you can see it well. More than 200 pages, covering 68 countries in the world that have ski resorts, even if they are very small. But that's the way I put my hand in the ski business. And with this, I learned I learned about a lot of resorts in the world, a lot of ski countries, and it has been building little by little. My focus is still on the economy of business of ski resort and business planning and viability studies and so on. That's my focus.
So with the research into that, did you have to go into 68 different countries?
Unfortunately, I had no sponsor that would pay me for traveling throughout 68 countries and visit this. I had, sometimes the chance to be invited in one country or another. Up to now, I only visit 20 countries, the ski resort in 20 countries. So there are 48 other I need to go and visit. But of course, sometimes to go to Iraq, for instance, to visit a magic carpet or so, it's not really worth the trip. And but I hope that I will be able to add some further countries and visit them. I think, I visited already the largest resort and the largest country and markets, but there are still some other to visit. Unfortunately, with the COVID and so on, it has not been any travel for the last 18 months. But I'm looking forward to be able to visit again. I just recently got invitation to go and visit some resort in Spain and in Russia. So,
oh wow,
hopefully things will improve soon.
Yeah, that's kind of the dream. That is being invited to go to ski resorts to write on the thing that you like doing. And
but unfortunately, as I mentioned, this is not the case all the time, and I'm not spending all my life, despite some people believe this, traveling to a resort and skiing and so on. Preparing this report is also a lot of work. So there is office work.
Yeah, I mean, how much time does that take?
I would say it's 1 month's work if you add everything all together, but it's spread. I started today gathering the figures for the next year's report, and this is a process that will take me up to next April. Because often you need to wait for answer and so on before I can begin to build up the report itself.
Yeah. So you touched on obviously that this year it's certainly been challenging with the report, obviously due to the pandemic, and definitely say that last winter was a bit of a shocker. But are you optimistic for this winter?
Yes, of course, because I think all these countries where crazy government decided to close completely ski areas, I hope they have learned the lesson that it's not worth closing the whole ski areas. They will lose billions for the economy, and it's not in the ski resort and especially not in the ski slopes that the COVID is spreading. So there are good hopes that all the ski countries will open this winter, especially France, for instance. They already announced, Italy, they already announced, and I don't see why Germany would keep their resort closed. All the other countries had their resorts open last winter, even if there were some measures and limitation of capacities and so on. And even you can be surprised, but some countries did a very good season in 2021. For instance, in Finland, they did very good job. In the US, they had the fourth best season. And for some other countries, I still don't have the data because I'm chasing after it. But of course, I think for the next season, everybody hopes to be able to go in the mountain with less limitation than former season. So there is really a strong desire from the people to go skiing.
Yeah, there's from everything that I've heard from sort of people who have businesses, there's definitely been there's a sort of a pumped up demand that I think is now, with a little bit of travel restrictions easing, that sort of that demand is feeding into the supply now, which is good news.
Yeah. There is just hopes that some government do not dictate some complicated rules that were not applied last year. For instance, to ask the COVID certificate or also to get a ski pass. Last year it was not required because this COVID certificate did not exist. But this would add a complication to the ski business and the practice of skiing that looks unnecessary to the professionals.
Yeah, I do wonder about that actually, and I should probably find out actually what will be the rules there with Canada, because I mean, there's like, if I go into a restaurant here now, I do have to show my vaccine passport. But yeah, I certainly hope I'm not going to have to show it to get on a gondola.
Yeah, in the restaurant, of course. For instance, in Switzerland, in France, it's compulsory to show the vaccine passport, but not for public transportation and not for open air activities.
Sure. So I read into the report. I read a lot of it, and it really sort of fascinated me how in depth it was for all the different countries. There were some countries on there which I didn't realize had ski areas. But so I learned something new, which was great. I'm really interested to know though, what do you think sort of the main trends are that are happening right now within mountain tourism?
Besides the COVID story, of course, I think in all the major markets, there has been a kind of maturity, and the baby boomers in the traditional ski market were the biggest players of the ski industry. And now they are getting older, retiring little by little. And we have a big challenge in this country to renew the customer base. And in fact, this challenge is not much different from the challenge of the new ski markets, like China, for instance. And I think China is really the ski market of the future. There is no other such potential market on Earth. And in a country like China, they are at the end the same problem than we have in Switzerland, France, or in North America, is to bring new customers to the mountain, to the ski industry, and especially customers that have no ski background, no ski culture. More and more, the new generation are cross-cultural generation. Their parents do not necessarily know how to ski. And this is a challenge to the industry, because up to now, the process to learn skiing was mainstream through the parents that trained to their children. And this flow is no longer going the same way that it was in the past. On top of this, people stay for shorter time in the ski resort. They are zapping customers. So if they are bored with skiing, they will do something else. Even in a ski resort, now there are a lot of possibilities. They have their cell phone, they have their computer, and the ski resorts offer a lot of other leisure activity that are not ski. And so it's more and more difficult for the ski industry to capture new clients and to train new guests and learn them to ski. And one should stress that learning skiing is not necessarily a pleasant experience the first time or the first 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a challenge. I mean, for me, I struggle to understand why there is this general decline though in skiing attendance, especially when the way I see it, the sport is far more accessible and more affordable than it's ever been. I mean, would you agree with that statement, or?
I think the issue of the price of skiing and the cost of ski vacation and so on is often raised as a factor that limits the possibility of people to go skiing. But I think nowadays it's more a matter of choice. People decide to purchase a new cell phone, to purchase a car, or to travel to a sunny destination. They spend money. But they choose where to spend it, and maybe the ski industry is not enough attractive, especially for beginners. If I don't know if I will be pleased with the ski experience, if I'm a non-skier, maybe I will not spend hundreds of euros to go in a ski resort if I don't know if I will enjoy this. So I think this is more the problem. I may spend the money, but I'm not sure it will be worth it. So we really need to find how to penetrate the market and to familiarize non-skiers with the ski without they have to commit to too much spending and equipment and so on.
Yeah.
And that's a big challenge because currently the mass market, the mass of the industry doesn't know how to do this.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see how it can get even harder to sort of penetrate those markets, given that, say, maybe 10, 15 years ago, a lot of people who considered maybe trying skiing for the first time would normally sort of go through a tour operator. And, there were already sort of pre-existing relationships with tour operators and the resorts themselves and local suppliers. Whereas now a lot more people, if they want to think about a holiday, they do so independently. So they like to pick and choose which parts of the holidays they want. And I don't see sort of a platform that pushes skiing into somebody's face like that.
Yeah, you're right. The trend to self-organized holiday pushes the people to make their cherry picking, and maybe in a package holiday for 6 or 7 days in the ski resort, you anyway get the ski pass for 6 or 7 days and ski lessons and so on, and you will be a little bit trapped to learn skiing because you already paid for the ski pass and the ski lessons and so on, and it's no longer the way. I say 20 or 30 years ago, the people, when they were in a ski holiday, they were a little bit prisoners of the ski resort, and there were not so many choice of activities either in the ski resort. Computers and cell phone and so on were not so widely spread, so the people had no other choice than to learn skiing, and anyway after 7 days they knew how to ski and they would come back. But this rule doesn't work today.
Yeah. Also, I mean, you mentioned 7 days. Like, it's always seemed to be this sort of rigid time on a holiday. Whereas actually, you can stay for longer if you want, or you can stay for shorter. I do know, say, like last few years, the sort of the long weekend, as they call it, where you might fly in on a Thursday and have 4 days, then be back at work on Monday, has worked to an extent. But yeah, like typically I guess sort of the accommodation setups have only ever sort of seemingly been restricted to 7 days. So I can see how sometimes that might deter people, because some people might want to stay longer.
Yeah, especially the UK market that is going a lot to France. And in France, they have this very rigid practice of Saturday to Saturday. And even if there is a trend and a demand for midweeks or long weekend, as you mentioned, and so on, there are several issues. First, the accommodation in France do not accept this flexibility, or a lot of accommodation do not. And the British people also prefer, at the end of the day, to spend the whole week, because it takes less holidays than if you go from Wednesday to Wednesday. It will take you 6 days of holidays. If you go from weekend to weekend, it only takes 5 days. And apparently, I've been making some investigation for Geneva Airport, because Geneva Airport welcomes, I think it's the largest entry place for flying skiers to the Alps. And they wanted to know if it was possible to have not this peak on the weekend and spread this over the week. But there is a very heavy trend also on the customer side, that the mainstream of the customer prefer the weekend to the weekend. Even if there is some demand for midweek or long weekend and so on, the majority of the customer is still fixed to this idea from Saturday to Saturday, or some Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah. I suppose if maybe people who wanted to stay longer, it might be with more likely people who are staying in a chalet, perhaps.
But then there is not always very much flexibility, especially in the high season. You need to make your booking a long time in advance, and maybe then the accommodation will not accept to change or to extend the stay, because your room or your chalet is already booked for the next week, and so on.
Yeah. Are there sort of ways in which resorts and, I guess, like accommodations and suppliers, are there ways in which they can improve with their use of digital technology? For so many years, when you're sort of you're always carrying around the little plastic lift pass, or as you arrive in the resort, you've got like 7 pieces of paper with vouchers for this and that. Are there sort of ways in which they can improve?
The technology exists for this already for a long time. The problem is the mindset of the people in the mountain, and the competition between the different bodies that interact in a ski resort. The trouble is in Europe, contrary to the States or Canada or China, where resorts are often operated by one big company that controls a great part of the activity. In the Alps, the activities are disseminated throughout a lot of different actors, and one will accept a credit card, the other one will not, and one will accept that you use your ski pass to enter to the pool, and they do not manage to federate themselves to offer one unique support for the entries and so on. There are some resorts that are better than others, but there is a pain point, I say, already for years and years. Why are you still going this old-fashioned way? For instance, it has been possible, I think, for nearly 20 years to make a one-stop shopping on the internet. And I know already in 2005, I made a booking for a resort in Canada where I could do my one-stop shopping on the website, and I had everything on one website. Nowadays, in the Alps, it's still difficult to find a resort where you can make your shopping online on one single website and get everything you need for your ski vacation. And this is not a problem of technology. This is a problem of people.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, you mentioned China a couple of times. Beijing is next year. What are your thoughts on the state of skiing in China?
The skiing in China has been growing tremendously over the last 10 or 15 years. At the beginning of the 2000s, skiing was only for athletes in China. There was only one ski resort that was training athletes. And they started little by little at the beginning of the 2000s to build some ski areas outside of Beijing and so on. And over 20 years, they have been building 700 ski areas. Of course, some are very small. Most of them have a magic carpet, maybe one lift. The number of detachable lift in China is only a few hundreds. So you have not enough lift to equip each ski area with one detachable lift, if you take into account the inventory of lifts in China. But with this, there are ski resorts that spread out nearly everywhere in China. Even very southern provinces have ski resorts. The snow doesn't last for a long time. I've been visiting a ski resort in China in a place called Liupanshui in Guizhou province. It's the latitude of Dubai.
Okay.
And of course, they have maybe a 2 months snow season, but they are skiing. So this brings interest for skiing to the whole country. And over the last few years, they have been building 35 indoor ski centers in China. And on top of this, they have a lot of training center with revolving carpets or dry slopes. So everywhere in China, even in the south where they cannot have the natural snow, you can experience the snow and you can experience the ski. So this brings a very high interest for skiing. And for instance, even the ski dome, they opened 2 years ago in Shanghai. No, sorry, in Canton. It was open just a few months before COVID spread out. But over the last 2 years, they managed to have more than 2 million visitors in this indoor ski center.
Wow.
So it's incredible. There is really an interest for the ski business, and all the buzz over the Olympics and all the things they have been organizing for the Olympics, and very strongly led by the government and the Ministry of Sports and so on, has really had a very big impact on skiing in China. Already since 2015, when they got the Olympic bid, you knew that in Beijing that they would have the Olympic Games in 2022, and ski was really promoted. Also, there are big brands of consumer goods that promote skiing and so on. There is really a dynamic for ski in China that you don't find anywhere else.
Okay, interesting. And do you think that will then result in, I guess, sort of a growth in the Chinese market traveling to ski destinations elsewhere?
Not that much, because ski is basically a domestic practice. And we often, when we speak about the ski business and so on, and there are skiers like you and me that like to go skiing abroad, see new ski resorts and so on. But we are a minority, and a lot of people will not travel long haul to ski. The classical ski holiday is just to take the plane for 2 hours or to drive 2 hours or 3 hours to go to the mountain with the car. And yeah, most of the ski business is done on a domestic basis. About 85% of the skiers are domestics.
Okay.
So that means that even if we get 40 million Chinese people knowing how to ski, we will get some in the Alps or in North America or also in Australia and New Zealand, because they have the chance to have the reverse season during the summertime. But this will not feed the alpine resort and replace the baby boomer that will be missing.
I suppose also it's easier for maybe the Chinese market to travel to somewhere like Japan,
Yes,
um,
yes.
which I want to ask you about, because obviously I spent some time out there in Japan, and I was reading through your section covering Japan, and I seem to kind of get the idea that you felt the industry in Japan was sort of maybe on a bit of a decline. Would that be right?
Yes, yeah, a tremendous decline, because the ski industry in the 90s was really booming in Japan. And at that time, we don't have precise statistics, but it is believed that they made 100 million skier visits in one winter season.
Mm.
That's far much more than any country is doing today. And it has now declined to something like 30 million skier visits. So they lost two-thirds of their visitation. The ski resorts have old equipments. They have still old fixed grip chairlift, even without restrained bars and so on. It's very. I never had the chance to go there skiing, but I already heard about this and saw picture. And for a long time, they were not interested about foreigners. You could not go skiing in China because in Japan, sorry, because in the ski resort you have no trail map in English or in another foreign language. In the restaurant, there are only menu in Japanese and so on. And even their fellow Asian skiers could not come to Japan because they didn't understand anything. And I think 10 years ago, there has been a wake up in the Japanese ski industry, especially also because of the decline of the number of skiers. And then they opened to the international skiers, and they attracted people from Australia, New Zealand, and of course from China. I think the largest market for foreign market for Japan is Chinese people, but also from Thailand and some other Asian country that have no ski resorts in the country, but they have skiers that go abroad and that feed the Japanese ski market.
Yeah. I had a friend who worked for a travel company, and when I bumped into him in Niseko, they were bringing guests out from Taiwan, who said that, whilst there wasn't much, if any, skiing, I think, in Taiwan, actually the people loved skiing, and Japan was the sort of the place that they want to come. But I'm glad you sort of you've said a lot of things which I observed a lot when I was out there. The infrastructure was 15, 20 years old, perhaps secondhand stuff that they'd got from Europe, and maybe is an
No,
anomaly.
it's not second hand from Europe.
Yeah.
When they equipped their ski area, it was at the time that Europe equipped also his early ski areas. So it looks like it's second hand, but it's
Yeah.
only original equipment from the 80s or so. We had the same in Europe, but
Yeah. Okay. Oh well. Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably as well. When you go into places like Austria and Switzerland now, and you're just so used to being on high quality infrastructure all the time. It's got heated seats. It's got it's got a cover on it. Some of them have Wi-Fi. It's all very, very tip top of the range. But in Niseko, there was this sort of really large real estate boom, which I think had happened in the last 10 years, foreign real estate investment from places like Australia, from Singapore, Hong Kong, but there wasn't that balance with the investment of infrastructure on the mountain. Although I think just as I was leaving, like one of the big hotels had sort of they'd acquired a new place, but I think that's kind of one of the it's that balance is important in any resort. You've got to sort of have if you're going to invest in new hotels, new restaurants, new property in the village, then you've got to have the infrastructure to cope with that influx of volume of people.
Yeah, I think this is currently an issue in Japan, because especially if you purchase expensive real estate, you would like also to ski in good conditions.
Sure. I mean, I know that obviously a lot of the appeal of Japan is, especially in Hokkaido, is that powder snow, which you're not always going to find on the piste itself. But then, you get families that come from, away from school holidays, and so that you've got to have good quality pistes and lifts to cope with that too. I'm interested also to ask about Australia, because although I know during the pandemic Europe has struggled. There's some places have been open, some haven't. It seems like Australian ski resorts really kind of suffered a lot. Do you sort of have many contacts down there? Did you sort of hear much about what state they're in?
Yeah, already 2 seasons in a row they had problems, because the season that is ending, they had also a lockdown in the region around where are the largest ski resort and that feed the largest ski resort, and the people were locked down for I think 4 months in some places in Australia, so they had no customer. And Australia is mostly a domestic market, maybe 95% or so. And anyway, they had no foreign guests, but even the domestic guests could not come to the resorts. And they had this last season, and they had this summer, the same problem. And last season, I know some large resort only open for a few days or a few weeks, and they were obliged then to close. So the figures, the visitation figures went down very strongly.
Yeah. I hope that obviously when it comes around to their next season, which is, I guess it's our summer in Europe, I hope that they can finally have a good season, because as you say, they're probably quite relying on the domestic market. I want to just go back actually, because we were talking about, I guess, sort of the decline in attendances. I mean, what other ways do you think can be used to improve attendances at ski resorts?
My big point currently is to say that you first need to train the people to ski in the cities before bringing them in the ski resort. And I think China has been exemplary for this in building snow center in cities. But of course, in China, they can build ski domes and so on that cost a fortune, and they will have millions of people to come. But you even don't need to spend so much money. You can, in a gym, build a revolving carpet that is on a slope. You can change the inclination of the slope and the speed of the revolving carpet, and you can train to ski in a very friendly environment, because it's not cold, you have no snow, it's only a carpet, you don't need to have special clothes, you can hold to a bar if you are not secured, and so you can have your first ski experience in the evening for 1 hour or 2 hour session, and get familiarized with this without needing to travel, to spend a lot of money, and so on. And this is very easy to implement in any cities, because Yeah, there's a facility that you can put in a gym, but this nearly does not exist. I think in Switzerland there are two places where you can train like this. In France there are maybe three. Uh, but in China they started, they have several dozen of these places in big cities. And that's the way that you will introduce all these people without any ski culture to the ski in a funny way, because in these places that are well done with this training revolving carpet, they have also an après-ski bar, and they already create the atmosphere of the ski resort. And there's a pleasant experience that you can have. And I think for me, it's the way of the future to reach the people that would not come in a ski resort for a first time, train them to ski, get them used to the basics of skiing, and then you can organize to package this session with a weekend in the mountain or so on, so that the people will not stay just in this training room, but they will go out in the mountain. And anyway, I think when they will have some practice, they will be willing to go on the real slope, on the real mountain, and try the real experience of skiing.
Yeah, I suppose the best way to reach kids who haven't done it, like young people, is going to be in the excuse me, is going to be in the cities, because that's where all the young kids will be.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you're saying your reports that they come out in April. So have you started, I guess, sort of prepping for your next report now, or?
Yeah, I started just today collecting the skier visits data that I could already find for some countries. But this every year a struggle to get for as many countries as possible skier visitation data that are up to date to follow the trend in the different industries. Unfortunately, a lot of countries have no national ski area association that collect the data. Gathering visitation data is something that is not so old in the ski industry. As I mentioned at the beginning, even in Switzerland, this didn't exist 20 years ago. And in some young ski countries, they still do not have this systematic of collecting the visitation data.
Yeah. And is there anything, I guess, in particular that you want to find out or sort of discover within the next report? Any sort of new trends or?
I don't think that the industry has trends that change so quickly from one year to the other.
Sure.
The major issue of focus for the next report is already to trace in which country resorts were open, what were the restrictions, and so on, because it's interesting to make the benchmark. And my second point would be to get more visitation data from some markets that still do not have historical series of visitation data to see the evolution of skiing in this country. There are still 2 or 3 markets that are rather substantial, for which we have no idea about the trend in the visitation.
Yeah.
At least back up with figures.
Okay. One final question which I had, because we were talking just a bit before about customers using, obviously, tour operators, and more now are booking independently. Is there more that the industry can do on the service side of things?
Yes. I think this is also a big area for improvement, to offer more convenience in the ski resort. Especially if you already visited a brand new ski resort that popped up out of the ground, was drawn on a blank sheet of paper, where every commodity is next to the other, where you can get everything in the central place before going skiing and so on. And then you compare with our traditional alpine village, where you need to park your car in one place, then walk to the ski rental, then walk to the ski school, then walk to the lift. It's very complicated, the customer journey in the ski resort. I think we can really improve it, make it life simpler for the people. There is also with the greenwashing and so on, but a trend to say in tourism, a big pollution issue is the travel. And for instance, in Switzerland, there are a lot of ski resorts that you can reach with the train and public transportation. The train is electric, the lift are electric, so you can have a much greener ski experience. But the people prefer to take their car because all the ski stuff and so on is easier to pack in the car. And if in the ski resort they can offer, for instance, affordable rental, storage places directly between the connection between the train and the lift, it will make the journey easier and push more people to come with the public transportation. This is just an example.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are a couple of initiatives originating from the UK to try and get more of the UK market to travel to the Alps via train and not via the plane, because as you say, like that is you get 30,000 Brits alone fly into the Alps on a Saturday just to go to France, sorry. Whereas actually probably the time it would take to jump on a flight and then get up to your resort, it would roughly probably take the same amount of time if you got a train from London to get up to oh gosh, the station. That's it, to Borg or so. Yeah, there is sort of a message which is they are trying to push out, but I know it's also been hard because the Eurostar was quite badly affected during the pandemic. I think the ski train has now been taken over by another business, perhaps.
Yeah, it has been supported, I think, by Compagnie des Alpes, who operate some of the large resorts there.
So they are
for instance, in France, it's a problem because the train are not on time. There are very often strikes. So people, I assume Brits are afraid to take the train because they say, okay, if the train operates today when we go to the resort, maybe they will be on strike when we want to come back. And there is no good connection between different trains. And there's a pity because it doesn't encourage the people to self-organize the journey with the train. In Switzerland, it's very easy to self-organize your train journey because anyway, there are trains every half an hour. So if you miss one, you take the next one and everything is interconnected. But even with this, unfortunately, a lot of Brits that arrive with the plane in Geneva, they don't take the train, they rent a car to go to the resort. So it's really a heavy trend to use environmental unfriendly transportation means for in tourism and for the ski.
Yeah. Listen, Lauren, I really appreciate you taking the time today to sort of talk over a number of the topics that are in your report. I feel like we've only actually probably touched the surface on a couple of those. As I say, like you said, it was more than 200 pages, so there's a lot more to sort of read into that. If people wanted to find the report or get in touch with you, how would they do that?
So my report is very easy to get. It's for free download on the internet. You go on the website www.vanat.ch and you will easily find a way to download the report. This report is made available for free thanks to people that participate in a crowdfunding campaign. every beginning of the year, that this supports the preparation of the report, and it enables them to make it available to the public later on the year. The people that support the report with the crowdfunding get priority access to the report. But now the 2021 report is available to everybody on my website. And if anybody that listens is interested in contributing to the crowdfunding, you will also find the details on my website, and you are welcome for the next issue.
Awesome. Well, I will put some of those links as well in the description to this video, so that if anybody does want to obviously find the republication or help support you in your efforts for the next report, then they can find that easily. But Laurent, thanks very much for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you so much. And thanks very much for watching today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it very informative. If you do have any questions about the report or the things that have been mentioned today, by all means, put them in the comment section below. But of course, you can also get in touch with Laurent by going and finding out, clicking on the links below to discover his report and his website. Don't forget, guys, to like this video, to subscribe to the channel, and yes, leave a comment. Thanks very much, guys, and I will see you in the next video.